Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Turtle Optimist podcast. My name is Jenni. Imagine a world where every smile is a gift and every whispered wish holds a spark of hope. Today, we're stepping into that world with a man who lives it every day. He's not just wearing a suit, he's carrying the weight of Christmas spirit on his shoulders. I'm honored to have Lincoln Crum here today, a professional Santa. He's going to join us and talk about his unique experiences and stories that make his job truly extraordinary. So, welcome to the show, Lincoln. I'm happy you're here.
Thank
And
you. I'm excited to be here.
yes, I love your cup. That's
Thank you.
fabulous.
I have
Be-
lots of Santa cups. This is my favorite black Santa cup that I drink out of.
yeah, I love it. I love it. Before we get into the details, do you want to give the listeners like a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. Yeah. First off, thanks for having me on. I love doing podcasts. People are like, when are you going to start your own podcast? I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I like being the guest. I like this. I just like this. So thank
Yeah.
you very much for having me on. And the questions that you sent to me beforehand really have got my mind going. So I appreciate that. But my name is Lincoln Crum. Some people call me Santa Claus. And I'm based out of southern Indiana near Louisville, Kentucky. And I was born and raised in this area. And I officially stepped out of Santa's closet on October 21st of 2021. So I've been through 4 seasons now. The first season was a real amateur season, and then the last three have been very intensive, focused on bookings and performing and doing all the things that you do as a professional Santa. And so I've switched careers. I have been a realtor and an auctioneer my whole
Mm.
life. I became an auctioneer when I was in high school, and my dad and all that. It was a family business. So, I've got 100, now 150, now 250, 350, now 4, now 500. I did that my whole life.
Wow.
And when COVID hit, we stopped doing those charity auctions. I'm like, I don't have to do those anymore. I did over 2,000 of them in my career. So I stopped doing those, and the real estate business was kind of changing and transitioning. And I'm like, this is my chance to get out of that and get into, I do two things. I do Santa and I do food. My girlfriend, life partner, owns a restaurant, and she's the hardest working person on the planet. And so we complement each other with working together. So I do food that people get, as well as I'm very active in our hunger community and food insecure community. I'm on a board of directors for Dare Care. So it's just my whole life has gone full circle from realty and auctions to now being kind of this public servant type person that I'm out here to find a voice for everybody that I can and share the love. I'm an empath, which sometimes gets you in trouble, but I really love just helping people, being around people, and creating cheer and joy. And I now get to do that as Santa Claus and as a book author more than I ever have in that realm of it. And I'm very thankful for that. Very grateful.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you've had quite the journey,
Yeah.
and you have your hands in a lot of different things. What was it like transitioning from your previous career to becoming a professional Santa? And was there any specific like aha moment that made you realize that was your calling?
Yeah. I mentioned just a little bit ago about my Santa's coming out day and time. Um, that was the first time I put on a little suit that I got from Amazon and a Santa hat and glasses. I didn't really look like Santa a whole lot. I felt like Santa though. I looked more like a little gnome. But I really felt like Santa. And I put those glasses on and that little hat on and my little red velvet jacket. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really kind of look like him, but I really feel like it.
Hmm.
And so, as a professional Santa, the months from September and December are fantastic. They're why we do it. There's segments throughout the rest of the year that's not so fantastic. January, February are very difficult months because you've spent the last 3 months talking to people about what they want and also about very difficult things in life because you're a safe zone for people. So that's probably was the biggest thing that that surprised me that I didn't anticipate was you become almost like a micro mini therapist, and people come to you and ask you for whatever, tell you whatever. And then if you're good at reading the room like I am, you read scenarios and people and kids' shoes. If it's cold outside, if people have gloves, hat on, all those things. And so not only do I observe that and see that, I feel for that. And so when you do that for 4 or 5 months, and then you've got January, February, and you're not doing any of that. And fact of the matter is, people are sick and tired of Christmas for a minute. Can we have a break? And that's a tough mental health time for somebody that does it. And I'm experiencing that. It's like the 3rd year in a row. But I had to leave the industry that I was in. The way we were compensated, the real estate industry is changing. And I've had real estate company with agents and the mortgage company and all that. I just don't want to manage any of that. What I want to manage is building positive core moments with people, micro moments, 30 seconds or less. That's my calling. And sometimes that doesn't equate as fast to selling a house and having a commission and all that. But I just figure it out. We're just figuring it out, just one foot in front of the other. But that was a real wake up for me, is what people would say to you as Santa. Because you're always like, oh, I bet the kids love it. Yeah, they do. But kids also tell you some pretty sad stuff.
I'm sure.
They do. And I wasn't really equipped for that. So I made sure I became equipped. I got educated. I researched. I read. I did a lot of Santa visits. Went to Santa school, been to Santa Con, Santa training, all that. Makes a difference. Talk to people that have been Santa for 20, 30 years. They have a perspective to share with you on what you say when a little kid says, hey, mom and dad are getting a divorce. I don't know if you're going to know what house to come to, and they're crying. And the big old empath in me sitting over here trying not to cry is so difficult. And so, but I met a Santa from Alaska at one of my first Santa meetings, and he told me some tips on things to say when little kids ask for the hard stuff. And I appreciated that, you know, and I take being Santa very serious, especially the interaction one-on-one. I want to build these positive core memories, but I want to respect that space. And that's a safe space for people. And ironically, some wild way, this beautiful Santa suit that I put on is like my coat of armor, and it's my shield. And I take people in and hug them, and we just get through it together. And they're very pronounced, they're very gorgeous. But that was all by design. I wanted that. I want people to get lost in the image of who I am and what I look like, because I look a lot like the iconic white Christmas Santa from the 1890s and 1940s. But I want to bring that look alive, if that makes sense. So whether it's through my accessories or the things, and it's things that people can ask and touch and talk about and get lost in my suit and get lost in the moment, because that's when memories work the best, when you get lost in the present moment. And so that's what I do.
Yeah, that's great. I know that when you and I initially talked, you were talking about how the Santa business, just being Santa, brings you joy. And so I'm wondering if you can describe like a specific moment or interaction that truly encapsulates that joy for you.
Oh, it is on a random every day at my local grocery store, and a little one, I lock eyes and they see me. And I don't always have Santa stuff on, but I always have something on that Santa, whether it's like my Santa ring, or I wear green shoes a lot, and I got a little Santa Claus shirt. I have some other shirts that say "Don't Stop Believing," and it's just enough for somebody to recognize. But I'm not in full suit all day, and I never understood why old Santas did that. I'm like, I'm not going to do that when I do this for a living. You do it because, one, you're always booking arrangements and booking deals, and we book a year out now, and so you want to be front of mind for people. But you also want to trigger a core memory moment. And so my favorite is when I'm out and I get noticed by 2 or 3 littles that are aged 4 to 8 years old, and they see me and we lock eyes and I smile and give them my dimple and, remind them, make sure that They know how many days it is till Christmas. I always know the days. We're 291 today, I believe. Ask them if they know any of the reindeer names. Just interaction. And that allows me to measure their level of believability. And so when there's buy-in and all of them, and they're all looking at me like this, and I'm looking at them like this, the best part is the other adult in the room that gets to witness that.
Yeah.
It's great from the kids' perspective. It's great from my perspective. But where it's really great for me, it's like it's that next level, next tier of the experience. And that's to experience the experience of watching other people see that moment happen. And everybody close to me in my life have seen that. And if you're with me and you haven't seen it, and then you see it, it just knocks you down. And I get that all the time. And it's my favorite.
Awesome.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I know that when you and I talked prior to this recording, you had said that there is a power in living in the present moment. How does embodying Santa help you achieve that presence, and how can others apply that in their daily lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like a lot of the teachings of Buddhism, and Buddha talks a lot about present and the power of the present moment. And then the irony of the word presence at Christmas time, and everybody's there to get presents, but it's really not about those presents under the tree. Excuse me. It's about those present moments with people in your life, whether you like them or not at that moment in time, but it's about that. And so I have lived a life where I wasn't present as an adult. And that wasn't good for me mentally, mental health wise. And so once I became Santa, I got to see the reinforcement of emotions and feelings by people when they see me. And it takes you somewhere. It's time travel. When you see me in my full suit, or I have my Santa energy fully turned on, it takes you to when you were a little kid and you think about something with Christmas of any age, whether you're 8 years old, 10 years old, 20 years old, 60 years old. I had a 95-year-old lady when I first became Santa saw me and just melted. I just like to get lost in that. And it took practice. And you also got to learn how to deal with it. You know, there's some Santas that have some pretty large egos, and you know, I am a lot. I'm a larger than life type personality, so I know that. But my gratitude and humbleness keeps me balanced and leveled, and keeps my ego in the right place. That doesn't happen for all Santas, because people will see Santa and they'll say, "You're the best looking Santa I've ever seen." Well, that Santa hears that, and that's what he really believes. But really, what they're saying is, the look that you have as Santa is very familiar to my positive core memory that's in my hard drive from 1981. Most Santas don't understand that at a higher level of Santa, but I think I learned and understand my dad was a Santa, so I've come into this understanding and have a background in it. And that's really interesting to me. And just the interaction of the people in that very quick micro time is a present moment that you can, it reminds me of like a big mosaic, you know, where you've got all these little pictures. They're all captures of the present moment. You pull back and it's all one. Well, that's all one is a big picture of me as Santa Claus. And that's how I vision all these present moments that I have with people. But also on a personal level, to understand that I'm a man that lives in this world, that I get in trouble if I live too much in the past, or if I focus too much on the future. It gets me in trouble. And so if I go straight into the present moment and know that this is all we've got right now, this moment in time, and not put any weight into something that does not exist or can't be changed. The only thing I can change is what I do today, the people I see today, the people I interact with today, the people I love today. And that's where the power of being present has really hit it for me. And Santa just accompanies that. And so I say the line all the time when I'm Santa, when I'm leaving the house or leaving a party. Now, don't forget, or I'm doing a presentation, the best presents that we get are the present moments that we get with those that we need, not found under the tree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty universal. Everybody, pretty much understands that. And if you don't understand it, that's my little gift to you in that present moment, that you need to understand that we build up stuff in our head and our life a lot bigger than we should at times. I'm guilty of that as anybody. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of keeps me grounded.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. And I think that, if a person is living in the past or in the future, that can cause a lot of anxiety because, we're trying to think about how we would course correct, from the past, and think about all these what ifs in the future. And so really being focused on the present time and what we can do, I think that can help with some of that anxiety.
I think so. I saw I've heard this quote before, but I saw it as a video meme on TikTok right before my Christmas season started last year. It was right on like Thanksgiving Day. It was probably Thanksgiving Day, the way the world works. But it said, are you doing what would make your 8-year-old self excited and your 80-year-old self proud? And I can honestly tell you, for the first time in my life, saying my name is Lincoln Crum and I'm a professional international Santa Claus, I can tell you that that's the first time that makes both of those people excited and proud. And that's why I know what I'm doing is correct and works.
Yep. It's beautiful.
You just got to believe.
Yeah, you do. You do have to believe. That's for sure. What are some of the most memorable or heartwarming encounters you've had with children or adults while working as Santa?
My first year was like this. It was a real smack because I had been to the Charles Howard School of Santa Claus up in Michigan, proud member of the 85th graduating class. But nobody told me about the psychological elements of this. And nobody really gave me a heads up about how difficult it can be. So the first year at Christmas, it was the day after Thanksgiving. So it was a light up in our little small hometown, and I was the city Santa for a couple of years. And I was working the chair in this big market where everybody is, and all these families and all these kids, and I'm being Santa. And it's my second year of doing it, and I'm really in the zone. I'm feeling really good. I've got my new suit on, and a lady comes up to me. There's a mom and her dad, or a mom and her husband. They were in their 60s, and then their adult children and their grandchildren. They were all dressed in matching sweaters. They were adorable. Took a bunch of pictures with them. And so when they were done, the mom, the matriarch of the whole family, you could tell, she came up and she goes, I want a picture with just Santa. And I'm like, that's cool. Come on. I love getting my picture taken, especially when I'm dressed up as Santa Claus. I love it. I just do love it. I admit it. I love it. It allows my ego to do it, but I love it. I said, sure, come on down. And she goes, can I have a hug, Santa? And I said, yeah. And she gave me a hug, and I gave her a hug. She's like, please pray for me, Santa. And I thought, oh, what's getting ready to happen? Oh, shit. And she goes, you're the only one that knows, but I found out my chemo's not working, and this is my last Christmas. I just wanted to share that. And I'm like, Joe, how do I deal with this? I'm an auctioneer. I'm a realtor. I've consoled little old ladies selling their parents' stuff, but I've never consoled death like that. It was a safe space for her. And I knew at that moment that I had to be a strong person, and I had to get through it. And I looked down, and there were about 50 little snot-nosed kids standing, waiting in line to see Santa Claus. They don't want to see sad Santa. Yeah. And so I just leaned into the moment, took a picture with her, consoled her, contained it. And she came back with her husband, got another picture. I had a break in about 30 minutes, and I went in the break room and I bawled my eyes out. And I went home that night and I drank like 5 bourbons. It rocked my world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't drink anymore. And but there's this whole stereotype Santa, drunk Santa, stumbling down the streets. It's because he'd been working in a mall for 10 hours straight in an awful wool suit with a fake beard, hearing everybody's sad ass shit stories that they were telling him. And he's going to get drunk because when you're done performing as Santa, you don't just go take your suit off and put your PJs on and go to bed.
Right.
You decompress somehow. We all do it in our own way.
Yeah.
And I had to learn how to do that. And thankfully, I had a good therapist at that moment in my life, and he walked me through it. And that was probably one of the most toughest things that have been told to me. By far, one of the very best is I had a photo session with a little 6-year-old kid that is on the spectrum last year. And it was right in the middle of a very long day in the middle of the Christmas season with a photographer. I do a lot of photography shoots, photo shoots, session shoots. I really love those. Those are my favorite. But this little guy was nonverbal and he hit himself. And we just were afraid that we couldn't get the shot that we wanted to get, and get the moment with me and him. And we did. And it felt, I'll send you the picture later. It felt the best I've ever felt as Santa. So there's a wide range of emotions that you go through. I have found that I do best when I perform, more so than in like working a big corporate party and just mingling. If I'm performing in a chair, seeing kids going back and forth, getting photos, that, or performing, like I went to China last year and I performed with a band and were set performances. I really like that. The photography, the set stuff, but just meandering around as Santa Claus is not the thing that I love to do.
Well, it's good to know what you like to do.
And I've done all of it so I can get that experience. I'm talking to my local mall right now about doing some shifts as a mall Santa at the mall where my dad was Santa in 1980, 81, 82. I'm doing an event in the same space here at the end of March promoting my new book. And, it's just full circle.
Yeah.
It's just full circle. But I want to do as many of those elements as I can to see what I like and what I don't like. Home visits are really not always the easiest because especially if it's an evening event, because you go in, people have been partying all day, hanging out, everybody's festive, the bourbon's flying. I live in the bourbon capital of the world, and people are drinking, and drunk alcohol adults that are drunk on alcohol steal Christmas magic from children. So I tapered back from the way I do my home visits. I don't do the late at nights as much. So you just learn that. You just learn how it works. Yeah. And I want to do every element of it that I can because that's part of me getting as much of the experience as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and you mentioned your book. I know you self-published one, and it seems like a really natural extension of the Santa business. So what inspired you to write it, and what's the core message you hope readers take away from it?
Yeah, so, I just so happen to have a copy right here in my kitchen. It's titled, Oh No, Santa's Going to the Moon. And it was written by myself. No AI was used in the writing or the creation of this book. There's a picture of me in my spacesuit Santa and Taj Mullins, who's a very dear friend of mine and an illustrator and an amazing artist. And we created this book. It's a nighttime read story about a little that falls asleep and ends up on the moon with Santa Claus. Can I read you my favorite line?
Yes, you can.
I hop in his sleigh and I give him a hug. He grabs his beard and gives it a tug. To the moon we go, up and away, Santa shouts with glee from the back of his sleigh. And it has a real nice spread of this little guy, Santa Claus on the moon. So I have 2 grandsons that live in Maryland who I see 4 or 5 times a year. And I have always been a writer, an amateur writer, never written for anything other than real estate emails or a little bit of creative writing. When I left the real estate industry, it is amazing the creativity that came out on the other side of my brain. And I started writing these children's books. I have 10 or 11 that I've written in the Oh No Santa series. My next one that's getting ready to come out will be about Franken Christmas, a monster truck that saves the day. And I write about the topics of the things that little kids ask me for Christmas. We're working on a story about unicorns and reindeer magic because little 8-year-old girls love them some unicorns. And I wrote one about a drone, and they're all rhyming 16 to 32 page stories. But to self-publish a book, here's my I just wrapping this. Here's all of my writing that I've done about it. And it just came out of my brain. I don't know. I can't even explain it. But it gave me the confidence to do it. But I have learned that, and I knew this going into it, the creation, the writing, the design, the going to the printer, doing all that. I printed 1,500 in my first round. I've sold almost 1,000 of those. I hustle books all the time. They're in my truck, they're in my girlfriend's restaurant, they're in my office. I'm always either passing them out, giving them away, hustling them, selling them, because that's one of my main sources of income throughout the rest of the year. And so I've worked on a new story about being happy and finding happy in every step of the way. And that's going to be less Santa themed, because I have found a little bit of a struggle is people don't want to hear Santa stories read to little kids January through May. And I want to read to little kids January through May. So, okay, I'm just going to write another book. Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know where it came from. I'm what you title an accidental author. It's just later in life, and it's just kind of happened. And I'm less intimidated by the process now. And the thing with self-publishing, like on children's books and stuff, you got to have 4 or 5 titles that you've written, that you've illustrated, that you've put out, and you've sold about 5,000 copies each before they're ever going to look at you. Okay. Well, that's going to take me another 5 years. So what? I'm going to be Santa for another 5 years, right? Right. So that's kind of the deal, that I'm not scared of the hustle of them in my books. I've said it all the time. I feel like Eazy-E hustling mixtapes in the early 90s, out of his 64 Impala, just selling tapes, selling music. I loved everything about that, selling whatever, but the music element of it, his creativity, sharing his creativity that way, I'm the same way. Mm-hmm. All my friends have books. They've all bought multiple copies. They're all sick and tired of it, but they also love me and support me in this mission. So it's okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah. What advice would you give to someone considering starting their own unique business, especially one that brings others joy?
To realize that there is a balance and a level to it, where you've got one feeling of emotions on one end and you got the other to counterbalance the other. You can't be happy all the time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got to have balance, yin and yang. You have to have it. And so to make sure that you're as balanced as possible, but it's always going to be a little bit, because that's what keeps you moving, right? But to not be so hard on yourself, that's the hard part for me. A lot of times I'm wickedly difficult on my own self. And to know that if this is what you're supposed to be doing, then lean into it and do it all hours of the night. There's a guy that I follow named Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, and he's a business author and all that, and motivational speaker and everything out of the East Coast. And he's like, just go do it. Just go be it. And lean into it when you're not doing your other hustle. And so that's probably my biggest advice. My other one is make sure you got enough money put back to help fuel it, which is kind of like that old saying when you're a kid and your parent says, or your grandparent says, well, listen, I have no problem with you quitting this job, but don't ever quit a job until you have another one lined up. That's the best life advice that we've all disregarded at least once, because that's how you learn the lesson. So to say to start and transition with enough money, yeah, well, that sounds great. That doesn't always happen. So still lean in. It may take a little bit longer. Sometimes I feel like maybe I'm a little bit crazy because I've changed these careers, and there's a lot of what I do as Santa is the same as what I did in consulting people in real estate and auctions and stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities. But I've almost gotten over the stage where I don't think I'm crazy. Yeah. Right? When you become Santa, you kind of feel that way a little bit. And as you get noticed, so it's a tiny amount of what fame feels like. And I think it's just the amount that I can handle. I don't need any more than this. And it keeps me grounded, you know. And that's what the off months are for. So I make sure the off months, I call those beyond the chair. The work that I do throughout the rest of the year. We're actually, me and another Santa are working on a documentary titled Beyond the Chair, and it focuses on 8 or 10 Santas that do things not as Santa. There's a Santa down south that collects money all year long, and at Christmas time, Christmas Eve, day before Christmas Eve, I guess, he'll go into the utility companies and pay all the disconnect notices.
Nice.
And so there are a lot of Santa characters that do stuff all year long, and there's some cool stories in that we want to share. And so beyond the chair work is it's more than just the chair, because you don't get lost in being Santa. That's fun. November, December are fun for me. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of intensive training and all that, but it's a lot of fun. And the rest of the year isn't always as much fun. And so you got to find the fun in it.
Yep.
You got to find the fun.
Yeah, you do.
And I think you find the fun by being grateful and by helping other people.
Yeah.
You know, that's because that's where you get your Santa love on, by helping people, delivering something that was unexpected.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. I really feel like we've learned that living in the present, embracing joy, and finding your true calling are not just holiday sentiments, but principles to live by. And whether it's taking a leap of faith like Lincoln did, or simply pausing to appreciate the moment, we can all bring a little bit of Santa's magic into our lives. And if you're thinking about starting your own unique business, remember Lincoln's advice to follow your passion and bring joy to others. So I just want to say thank you, Lincoln, for stopping by and inspiring us with this magic in every moment. And stay tuned for the next episode on the Turtle Optimist podcast. See you next week.
You are awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.